What if China's most beautiful mountains were not simply landscapes, but living monuments shaped by fire, ichi, faith, and stories no one has fully explained? This journey takes us beyond familiar cities and into sacred peaks where temples cling to vertical cliffs, volcanic lakes sleep above ancient magma chambers, and clouds occasionally transform sunlight into visions once interpreted as divine signs. Across 10 extraordinary mountains, we will explore the meeting point between extreme geology and more than 2,000 years of Buddhist, Daoist, Confucian, and folk traditions. Stay with us until the final ascent and tell us which of these mountains you would place at the top of your travel list. Mount Mian Shanxi. Mount Mian rises from Shanxi in walls of stone so steep that ancient temples appear less constructed than fastened to the mountain by faith. Their roofs projecting over ravines where clouds, wind, and falling water erase any comfortable sense of distance. The defining story here is the legend of Jiuhua, a loyal follower who helped Prince Chong'e survive exile, but later rejected wealth and political reward, choosing instead to withdraw into the mountain with his mother. According to tradition, the ruler ordered the forest burned in an attempt to force Jiuhua from hiding, yet he refused to return and was later found dead beneath a willow tree, transforming personal loyalty into one of China's most enduring moral tragedies. The Cold Food Festival became associated with his memory when families traditionally avoided lighting fires and ate prepared food cold, turning an ancient political story into a quiet, domestic ritual repeated across generations. Temples, stairways, caves, and shrines now occupy the same cliffs connected to the legend, making every ascent feel like a movement deeper into a story where refusing power became more memorable than possessing it. Mount Mian therefore survives not merely as a dramatic landscape, but as a monument to the unsettling idea that history sometimes honors those who walk away from authority more deeply than those who successfully command it. Would you remember Jiuhua for his loyalty, his refusal, or the silence he chose over power? Mount Jiuhua Anhui. Mount Jiuhua rises through southern Anhui as a gathering of forested peaks traditionally compared to lotus petals, creating a sacred landscape where stone stairways, temple bells, incense smoke, and mountain mist appear to open and close with the movement of the clouds. The mountain's central story is the Buddhist vow of Kshitigarbha, the bodhisattva believed to remain with suffering beings until even the darkest realms have been emptied, making Jiuhua a destination associated less with escape than with spiritual responsibility. For centuries, Pilgrims have climbed between monasteries built at different elevations, repeating prayers while moving through forests, narrow ridges, and steep approaches that turn physical exhaustion into part of the devotional experience. The lotus-shaped peaks strengthen that symbolism because the flower represents purity rising from difficult conditions, while the temples seem to emerge from rugged stone as though compassion itself had been given a physical geography. Rather than separating human faith from the mountain, Jiuhua makes the two almost impossible to distinguish, with architecture following the slopes and monastic routines changing according to fog, cold, rainfall, and the demands of altitude. The mountain endures as a landscape of commitment, suggesting that the highest form of enlightenment may not be leaving the world behind, but repeatedly returning to help those who remain within it. Keep watching and tell us whether Jiuhua feels more like a sanctuary or a promise carved into the mountains. Mount Putuo, Zhejiang. Mount Putuo rises from the East China Sea as a sacred island where wooded hills, rocky shores, temples, and the immense figure of Guanyin face an open horizon shaped constantly by salt wind, waves, fog, and the cries of seabirds. The defining story here is compassion surrounded by water, because Guanyin is revered as the bodhisattva who hears the suffering of the world, and the island's isolation makes that act of listening feel almost physically present. Pilgrims arrive by boat and move from the shoreline toward monasteries and shrines, leaving the noise of the mainland behind as the sea gradually becomes both a boundary and a continuous background to prayer. The colossal Guanyin statue looks outward across the water rather than inward toward the island, creating the impression of a guardian watching over fishermen, travelers, families, and anyone whose journey places them beyond the certainty of land. When waves strike the rocks beneath temple paths, their repeated sound merges with bells and chanting, allowing a force of nature to become part of the mountain's spiritual rhythm without requiring any wall to contain it. Putuo's power comes from this union of geography and belief, presenting compassion not as something passive or protected, but as a presence expected to stand at the edge of danger and continue looking outward. Would you visit Putuo for the temples, the ocean, or the feeling of being watched over from the shore? Mount Lushan, Jiangxi. Mount Lushan rises above Jiangxi in waterfalls, forested cliffs, shifting fog, and cloud-filled valleys. Yet its most important feature may be invisible. For more than 2,000 years, different systems of Chinese thought have repeatedly met on these slopes. The mountain's central story is philosophical coexistence because Buddhist monasteries, Daoist traditions, and Confucian academies developed within the same landscape without reducing the mountain to the possession of a single belief. Monks searched for detachment in its quiet forests. Daoist practitioners read its clouds and waterways as expressions of natural balance, while scholars treated the mountain as a place where study and moral discipline could reshape public life. The White Deer Grotto Academy became one of the clearest expressions of that intellectual tradition, demonstrating that retreat into the mountains did not always mean abandoning society, but could also mean preparing to return with greater responsibility. Waterfalls and cloud seas continuously hide and reveal the terrain, giving physical form to the idea that truth may be approached through different paths and may never appear completely from only one point of view. Lushan, therefore, stands as a conversation conducted across centuries where three traditions remain distinct, yet shared the same cliffs, silence, and belief that mountains could transform the human mind. Which path would you follow here? First, the monastery, the Daoist trail, or the ancient academy? Mount Songhenan. Mount Song occupies a central place in Chinese cultural history, yet its most influential legacy emerged at Shaolin Temple, where physical discipline and Chan Buddhist practice developed into a tradition that refused to separate the training of the body from the training of the mind. The central story is repetition, because Shaolin martial arts were not created through a single legendary battle, but through movements practiced thousands of times until balance, breathing, timing, awareness, and control became instinctive. For the monks, a stance held through discomfort or a form repeated before sunrise could function as moving meditation, forcing attention into the present moment with the same intensity demanded by silent contemplation. The mountain environment reinforced that discipline through steep paths, winter cold, summer heat, stone courtyards, and long periods of isolation in which progress could not be measured by applause or immediate reward. Popular culture often presents Shaolin through spectacular kicks and displays of strength, but the deeper tradition values restraint because the highest achievement is not uncontrolled power, but the ability to decide when power should not be used. Mount Song's enduring lesson is that spiritual practice does not always require stillness, and that a human body trained with patience can become both the question and the instrument used to search for an answer. Would you come to Shaolin to learn combat, discipline, or control over your own reactions? Mount Emei, Jiuhua. Mount Emei rises through layers of subtropical forest toward a summit often surrounded by cloud, where a rare optical phenomenon known as the Buddha's light can place a glowing ring around a traveler's shadow on the mist below. The central story is the meeting of atmospheric science and spiritual interpretation, because the effect appears when sunlight shines from behind an observer and is scattered back through tiny droplets suspended inside clouds. The viewer's shadow may appear projected onto the mist and surrounded by colored rings, while perspective makes the figure seem distant, enlarged, and isolated within a luminous circle floating beyond the edge of the mountain. Science explains the geometry of the light, but it does not remove the emotional power of the experience, especially for pilgrims who spent hours climbing toward one of China's most sacred Buddhist summits. For generations, some visitors interpreted the apparition as a sign of blessing or spiritual presence, demonstrating how an uncommon natural event can enter religious memory long before its physical mechanism is understood. Emei therefore reveals that explanation and wonder do not have to destroy one another, because knowing how light moves through cloud may make the phenomenon more extraordinary rather than less sacred. Would seeing the Buddha's light feel like atmospheric science, a blessing, or somehow both at once? Mount Huangshan. Mount Huangshan is famous for granite towers rising above seas of cloud, but its most powerful inhabitants may be the ancient pines that grow from cracks where there appears to be almost no soil, shelter, or reasonable possibility of survival. The central story is endurance, because these trees anchor their roots inside narrow fractures, collecting traces of moisture and nutrients while remaining exposed to freezing winters, violent wind, lightning, and intense summer sunlight. Instead of growing straight, many trunks bend, twist, or extend horizontally from the cliffs, their unusual shapes recording decades or centuries of pressure. In the same way, scars record the history of a human body. What appears graceful from a distant viewpoint is actually the result of constant negotiation, as every branch changes direction according to available light, open space, prevailing wind, and the limited strength of the stone beneath it. Chinese painters and poets transformed these pines into symbols of dignity under hardship, not because the trees escaped difficult conditions, but because their beauty was created directly through the act of enduring them. Huangshan shows that resilience does not always look powerful or symmetrical, and that sometimes the most unforgettable form of life is the one that survives by bending without surrendering its hold. Which would you photograph first, the cloud-covered peaks or a single pine refusing to fall? Changbai Mountain Jilin. Changbai Mountain rises above northeastern China with Heaven Lake filling its summit caldera, presenting a surface of deep blue water and winter ice inside the immense crater left by volcanic forces capable of reshaping an entire region. The central story is the coexistence of fire and cold, because the peaceful lake occupies the remains of eruptions that once tore open the mountain, expelled enormous volumes of material, and created the steep walls, now holding the water in place. For much of the year, snow covers the upper slopes, while sudden fog and powerful winds can erase visibility within minutes, turning the approach to the crater into an encounter with a climate far harsher than the forests below suggest. When the clouds separate, the lake appears almost perfectly contained by the caldera rim, creating a misleading sense of stillness over a landscape whose basic form was produced by extreme geological violence. The contrast is what makes Changbai so compelling. Ice rests where magma once rose, water occupies the center of destruction, and one of the region's most serene views exists because the Earth once behaved catastrophically. Heaven Lake therefore functions as a memory held by the mountain itself, proving that nature can conceal its most violent history beneath a surface so calm that it resembles a doorway into the sky. Does Heaven Lake look peaceful to you, or like a sleeping force that should never be underestimated? Tianmen, Mountain Hunan. Tianmen Mountain is defined by a colossal natural arch known as Heaven's Gate. Yet the central experience is the engineered ascent toward it, a journey designed to make every stage feel more exposed, vertical, and psychologically distant from the city below. Visitors rise for several miles by cable car before confronting a mountain road folded into 99 sharp turns, its pavement appearing from above like a dark ribbon repeatedly tied against the forested slopes. Near the arch, 999 steps climb directly toward the opening, transforming the final approach into a physical test where the stone gateway grows larger while the surrounding cliffs remove almost every comfortable reference to scale. Elsewhere, narrow walkways and glass paths follow the vertical walls, allowing visitors to see empty space beneath their feet. While remaining separated from the drop by a surface the mind understands as solid, but the body instinctively distrusts. Each element, the cableway, the twisting road, the staircase, and the transparent cliff path, turns transportation into controlled confrontation, forcing travelers to experience the mountain through height rather than simply observe it from a safe viewpoint. Tianmen's greatest achievement is not that modern engineering conquered the landscape, but that it created a route compelling millions of people to feel the mountain's scale before finally standing beneath a doorway carved entirely by nature. Subscribe for the next journey. And tell us whether you would choose the cable car, the glass path, or all 999 steps.